Hi everyone, how are you all doing today?
I hope you are doing well because in this session, we will be discussing the topic of compound propositions, more specifically, conditional and biconditional propositions.
Before we begin, allow us to introduce ourselves first. I am Nina Pauline.
I'm Erynn Tan.
And I am Nadine Paguyan.
To start this video off, let's have a recap on what a proposition exactly is. Well, by definition, a proposition is a sentence which either is true or false. Said statements are represented by either T and F respectively. P is automatically denoted to the first proposition, while Q is for the second proposition. Here we have two examples of simple propositions. The top one, which is true, states that comets travel at 2,000 miles per hour when they are far away from the sun. The bottom one says that the Earth's axial tilt is 26 degrees. This is obviously false as its actual tilt is 23.5 degrees. As such, both of them are sequentially denoted with T and F. Now, let's try to determine if the proposition in the box is true or false. Davao City is located in Japan. Is the statement correct? If you pick false, then you got the correct answer. Davao City is in fact not located in Japan, but rather in the Philippines. Let's try out another one. 10 plus 10 equates to 20. Is it true or false? If you pick true, then you are correct once again.
Now, let's move on over to compound propositions. What are they exactly? Compound propositions are made up of single propositions linked together by propositional connectives. What are the propositional connectives, you might ask? Well, essentially, propositional connectives are operations that combine P and Q together to make a new propositions, of which its truth value is only dependent on the truth values of the two original propositions. Basically, a compound proposition will not be automatically true just because it has one truth statement in it. That's what a propositional connectives determine. While there are 5 logical operations under compound propositions, we will only be focusing on 2 of them today, which are conditional and biconditional propositions, like what we've mentioned earlier in the video. So what are conditional propositions? A proposition is conditional if it utilizes if-then statement or other synonyms of it. In a biconditional propositions, P implies or is an implication of Q. Conditional proposition can also be identified if the symbol that relates P and Q is an arrow pointing towards the right. Conditional propositions are denoted by this equation right here. Essentially, it means P implies Q, or if P then Q. Now, we move on over to its truth table. If you are going to determine the truth value of a conditional proposition, then you must refer back to this table. Going by the first row, we can see that if P is true and Q is also true, then the statement is true. The second row states if P is true and Q is false, then the statement is false. As such, if P is false and Q is true, then the statement is also true, as illustrated by the third row. Lastly, if P and Q are both false, then the statement is true, as seen in the fourth row. Here are some examples for each truth value of conditional propositions. The first example states that the unicorn, being Scotland's national animal, implies that the moon was formed 4.5 billion years ago. If we refer back to the table, we can see that the truth value for proposition is true because P and Q are factual statements. The second and third examples have the same truth value as the first one too. The second example, if pigs can fly, then snakes can walk, which has P and Q be false, implies that the proposition is true. The third example, 10 minus 5 equals 4, implies that Seoul is the capital of South Korea. It having P be false and Q be true, has a truthful truth value as well. However, the last example, which reads, if Twitter was made in 2006, then rats are avians, indicates a false proposition. If we refer back to the truth table, this is deemed so. Essentially, all you need to do to identify the truth value of a conditional proposition is to always refer back to the table and know which one of the simple propositions in the statements are factual or false.
Let us move on to the other type of compound proposition that we'll be discussing today. A proposition is a biconditional if the phrase if and only if is present in the sentence. Biconditional proposition are when both P and Q are logically equivalent and has the same value. Biconditional proposition can be identified if the symbol that releases P and Q is arrow pointing both ways. The proposition is also denoted by the equation right here. It reads as P if and only if Q. Here is the truth table. Like the conditional propositions, we refer back to this table in order to find the truth value of the biconditional proposition. Said propositions have the same value and thus are logically equivalent if you can recall. Thus, that is how truth values determine. Look here, for example. In the first row, both P and Q are true, which indicates that they are the same and thus have the same value. It is also applicable to the fourth row, where P and Q are both false this time. Since both are false, both are equivalent to each other. Contradictory to that, we have the second and third row, where P and Q are true and false and true respectively. Both P and Q in these rows are not the same, and thus, subsequently, do not have the same value. Here are 4 examples of biconditional proposition, all of which are its own truth value. The first example states that 5 plus 8 is equal to 13 if only if 5 times 4 is equal to 20. As you can see, both are factual and thus have the same value. The same applies to the second example, except this time P and Q are false. Pigs can fly if and only if snakes can walk. Both are still logically equivalent and thus the same. Both statements are false after all. The third example is where the truth value becomes false. If we recall back to the table, a Coke bottle having 1,000 calories, and it's the same as soap, being invented in 2800 BC. P is false, as you can see. Since a Coke bottle is equivalent to 800 calories in it, both propositions are not the same. And like what I've discussed earlier, they do not have the same value. It also applies to the last example, which is Jupiter's size being 139,820 kilometers insufficient and necessary for Reddit getting found in 2008. Reddit was actually founded in 2005, so which makes Q false, making this proposition truth values false too. Now, let's play a quick game of multiple choice. Just simply identify which of the following choices are either conditional or biconditional preposition. Are you ready to put your knowledge to the test? If so, let's go to the first question. Which one of these is a conditional statement? You have 5 seconds to decide. If your answer is letter A, then you're correct. Next one. Which of these is a biconditional statement? Again, you will have 5 seconds to decide. If your answer was letter C, then you're correct again. For the last question, which one of these choices are not a conditional or a biconditional statement? As always, you will have 5 seconds to choose. If your answer was letter B, then you're correct once more. Thank you for watching our presentation on conditional and biconditional propositions. Once again, I am Nadine Paguyan.
I'm Erynn Tan.
And I am Nadine Paguyan. Take care and have a good day.